am figuring out this new platform. There we go. We're back. And we're back. My name's Adam Pelletier, and joining me is Trey from Off the Wall. And we are launching the Arena Football Weekly podcast. And we say Arena Football, and we're going to talk about anything that happens inside of four walls. With walls in football. So Trey, welcome.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on here. And I know we've been talking about this for a little while now, trying to figure out, let's do something. Let's find a way to make it work. What lane can we fill? And so I'm excited to get this thing going and see where it goes and grows from here.
No, I mean, and that's just it. We have a lot of, basically the premise for this is, over the last couple of years, I've had a lot of really good conversations with people on the phone about the arena game. Whether that's AF1, IFL, NAL. We're going to talk about it all here because it's all pretty much arena football. There are some subtle differences. Nets, no nets. Colloquially, to anybody who's not a hardcore, it's arena football. And we just want to have a space to talk about it and have really good conversations because we think we know at least a little bit of ball, and we'd rather talk about ball than not talk about ball. If given the choice between ball talking and not talking ball, we'd talk about ball.
Yes. A lot of ball talk. That's what we want.
I know that also, like, Trey and I have had like long conversations. I've had a lot of long conversations. In a variety of roles with a lot of people over the past 2 years. I know for me, it's been an adventure in arena football over the last 2 years. And it's just been really enjoyable. I've had a lot of great opportunities, and it's just really exciting to continue that.
Yeah, and I think something that kind of overshadows the on-the-field product often is the off-the-field shenanigans that we have to deal with in arena football. And I don't have to tell you about off-the-field shenanigans. You've lived it once or twice. So,
once or twice or six times with the off-the-field shenanigans. And I would like to I just want to talk about on the field. Because again, that's where it's fun. Like, people will say, "Oh, the off the field is crazy." It's like, yeah, it is. And you know what? It's not. It's not fun. None of that is fun. What's fun is talking about football, talking about the players, talking about the teams, talking about the on-field battles, and that's just what we want to do. So that's why we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fun chatting through different leagues and. Yeah, and like we talked about before we got started, how episode 1 is probably not going to be how episode 2, 3, and 4 is. So yeah, this thing's going to grow and evolve, and I'm excited to inch closer and closer to the arena football season kicking off here.
I'm a little rusty with lives. I forgot to actually put a title on the thing, so it went out as Live with Restream, and I was like, listen, we didn't hype it that much, so no one was expecting anything huge. So we'll be back next week, similar time, and it'll get better. Everything's going to get better every week from a production standpoint. One thing that will just be elite from the jump is the knowledge of the game. Trey, you kind of had this thought of like, we should just let everybody know. When do all these leagues start? We'll start with the NAL kicking it off first.
Yeah, that's something
just explain the NAL to people who maybe we're going to end up somebody's feed and they're going to be like, arena football is still around, and we're going to explain yes. Yeah. Explain the NAL for people.
Yeah, so the NAL is the National Arena League, and they are primarily based in the Midwest part of the country. So pull up the old Google map, circle the center. 8 or 9 teams are probably in that circle wherever you circled it, right in the middle of the map. So they have grown and evolved over the past couple of years. I think they've been around for, close to 10 years in different capacities, and it's ebbed and flowed over the years, but I think they're starting to stabilize. And I think that's something that they've really been looking forward to, is being able to consistently, all right, let's build instead of rebuild on the previous season. So regular season for the NAL, again, the National Arena League, is kicking off the first week of March. March 7th is going to be the regular season kickoff. We got some non-league games happening the week before in that same week as they kind of slowly ramp into the regular season. But kicking off the NAL, it's going to be Colorado versus Pueblo, and then Amarillo versus Louisiana. Some towns that you don't typically hear about in pro sports. That's where they get the shine in the sport of arena football.
One of the best names out there, like from a local Flair, the Louisiana Rougarou.
Yeah.
I believe I said that right. I'm probably butchered it, being honest. But the Louisiana Rougarou, very exciting to see them kind of coming in to their own. They've really upped their game. And so 9 teams in the NAL: the Amarillo Warbirds, Colorado Spartans, Dallas Bulls, Louisiana Rougarou, Omaha Beach, Pueblo Punchers, Carolina Liberty, Sioux City Bandits, and the Southwest Storm. So 2 Kansas teams, 2 Colorado teams, 2 Texas teams, and 2 1.5 Iowa, Nebraska teams, because one falls on the Iowa side of the line and one falls on the Nebraska side of the line, and Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana is practically Texas for all intents and purposes based on where they're playing from. So, yeah, that's one of the things I think the NAL has really working for it is the regional aspect of it, where you're not having to travel from coast to coast for a regular season game. It's a couple-hour bus ride, and you're at the majority of the places that you'll be playing throughout the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's just great. It's very, it's real exciting to see just such a regionalized league. They're very much aware of who they are, and they know what they want to do and what they want to deliver, and that's great, and they deliver some really good football. We had some exciting moments last year, and it was great to see. So, moving on down to the next league to kick off, the Indoor Football League. The oldest of the existing leagues, currently founded in 2008, 7 years ago, first played in 2009. So growing by leaps and bounds recently, currently with a bunch of teams.
Yeah, we got 14 coming into
14. Thank you.
Season.
Glad you knew the number. I was trying to count the number there.
Yeah, well, speaking of 14, their season kicks off on March 14th. With the Quad City Steamwheelers taking on the Fishers Freight. And then on March 15th, the next day, a rematch of the IFL Championship from last season, the Vegas Nighthawks versus the Green Bay Blizzard. So a couple of high-powered, high-octane teams facing off against each other to kick off the season. And you couldn't really ask for a better week one to continue that momentum from a very, very fun 2025 season.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just it. We had a lot of fun games across all 3 leagues last year. The IFL had some spectacular games, particularly that Western Conference final. Came down to the last play of the game with that goal line stand. Yeah. Just really exciting to see that. Exciting to see the parity in these leagues continue to improve year over year as better and better players realize that this is an opportunity and this is a way for you to continue playing the game you love. So really big to see them continuing to do that. Absolutely spectacular. And then obviously AF1, the last one, out of the 3 leagues, the AF1 is the only one that plays with the very familiar rebound nets, and would be considered the only one playing under what purists would call arena rules. But indoor, the IFL and NAL play without the rebound nets, but the game is still very similar. There are some marginal differences where we could get into the nitty gritty, and we will at some point, just not today, get into the nitty gritty around the defensive scheming is the biggest one. The defensive rules is the big one. How many guys can drop in coverage, where they're contained, where the MAC and jacks have to play, and are they actually are they actually linebackers? Are they safeties? So lots of inner workings and discussions there, but AF1 has 9 teams kicking off the regular season on April 11th. Going to see the Minnesota Monsters, an expansion franchise that has some expansion franchise. There are some connections to the old Duluth Harbor Monsters of the TAL, which is a completely separate entity, and we'll talk about that later in a couple of weeks. Yeah, it'll eventually be TAL time. That's more of a summertime league. Yeah. But they won the bones of that team did win a championship in the previous league, and of course the Albany Firebirds completed a wire-to-wire finish. They went undefeated last year in AF1, won the Arena Crown Championship in thrilling fashion against the Nashville Cats, and that all kicks off. I believe they have a jam-packed 4-game slate that opening weekend on 4/11 and 4/12. So that'll be really good. It's real exciting to see all this action available. And so just kind of thinking about this, what are some of the storylines that you're paying attention to? Let's start in the NAL. They're kicking off first. What are some of the things you're paying attention to as we get ready for the NAL season?
Yeah, the NAL has really been growing, not just on the field but off the field as well. Really getting consistent with some of the things that they've been doing to avoid those inevitable, or not, hopefully not inevitable. Seemed like it was inevitable the past few years in terms of like teams starting the season and not necessarily finishing the season. So I think for the NAL, they brought in a couple of veteran teams in Southwest Kansas and Salina over from the AF1 last season. And I think that really helped bolster this league and provide some veteran presence, so to speak, in terms of franchises for the rest of the league. And I think the thing to look for with the NAL is, can they finish the season with the same teams that started it? If they can, that's a good foundation to build on.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things is going to be the arrival of Southwest Kansas and Salina. Southwest Kansas has rebuilt an incredibly dominant team. They've been a playoff team in their previous two leagues, the AF1 and the AFL. Very competitive. Were moments away from winning both of those playoff games in previous seasons, and they've lost some very close games. Coach Gary Thomas has learned what he needs to do, and he's rebuilt another great squad there out in Dodge City, Kansas. And, brought back a really good quarterback in Matt Struck. Matt was playing overseas. He's back now. Really exciting to see him take the reins from Jalen Morton, who moved up to the UFL, of course. So, I think it's just, the story to me is the Kansas teams are going to be dominant, and who will emerge dominant from the inevitable Southwest Kansas and Salina battles that are going to happen in the NAL now. We got them in AFL, right. We got them in AF1, and now we're going to get them in the NAL, which is just great. It's one of the best rivalries in the game right now. I think it's one of the longer running rivalries now. They're on their fourth league, moving from the CIFL to the AFL to AF1 and now to the NAL. I mean, who knows? Maybe maybe they'll be in a whole new league next year, but yeah. Wherever they are, I know they're going to play at a high level. And I think that's one thing that's going to be really good. You're going to see them both push the beef, and potentially teams like the Rougarou as they kind of get started as well.
Yeah, and it's I think it's good for the sport to have teams like that joined at the hip, so to speak, where they go together, where they're a package deal wherever they go. So it's clear that on the field they're competitors, but off the field they're looking out for each other, and I think that's good to see in this space.
No, really good. Heading over to the IFL, I think one big thing that I'm excited for and looking forward to seeing is just how do they take this next step? I mean, they have some big broadcasts coming up, but the on-field product is, what is the next step? What are we going to do? We have a mid-season neutral site tournament that's kind of exciting with the IFL Cup in New Jersey. As some people have joked, the brawl at the mall too. But I think that's going to be really exciting because you sent 3 of your championship teams there from the playoffs, and you sent a team in New Mexico that has really elevated their roster in year one with the arrival of a stud quarterback in Jerome Johnson and an excellent receiver for him who just gets open, and Maurice Ashley, teasing a little bit on a later segment. But yeah, they're built to compete right now, which is really good for the IFL, that they're going to bring in an expansion team and feature them, and just with a gorgeous color scheme. One of the best logos in a while that I've seen in the IFL.
Yeah, that color scheme is nice, and if they're able to sneak in a little turquoise from the state of New Mexico, look out. That could be a uniform of the year potentially. But for the IFL, there's so much momentum in this offseason. Again, 2025 was a very, very fun season. The playoffs was arguably one of the best arena and indoor football playoffs in recent memory, pound for pound, game for game. So how do you continue that success, and how do you build on this positive momentum? And it's been a lot of talk. It's been a lot of, this is what we're going to do. Now it's time to execute, and now it's time to go out there and do it. So I have faith in the IFL to be able to do that stuff. And man, the sky's the limit for the IFL right now if they can deliver on what they think they can.
Yeah, and then heading over to AF1, just the big storylines. Obviously, can Albany repeat in 2026? That's at the forefront of everybody's mind. The Albany Firebirds are one of the 3 most recognizable brands in the 50-yard game right now. It's them, it's the Barnstormers, and it's the Rattlers. I don't know that there's any brands that can even start to compete with those 3. And you know, and then their running mate and primary opposition in AF1 is probably going to be the Nashville Cats again. You know,
Yeah.
they brought back a lot of parts of of an almost championship roster that saw a quarterback throw for like, I think it was like 400 yards in the championship game, and Tyler Kulka. Kulkamania is a real thing. And so it's going to be interesting. And it's also going to be interesting to see how some of the expansion teams compete. You know, Minnesota had some success in another, you know, the roster in Minnesota had success in another league. So seeing them come over and paying attention to what they're going to do is going to be very interesting. And I'm curious to see how they make that leap, because it's not an easy leap to make, especially stylistically, because there are some changes with how the defense has to play and how the offensive rules also will dictate what they are and aren't able to do. Additionally, you know, you have Beaumont as well. You know, the Beaumont Renegades coming in. It's going to be very interesting. Again, they were in the NAL last season. How are they going to adjust to the arena rules, which is, you know, it's not a big deal to the average fan. It's a very big deal to the players on the field, because it does dictate a lot of what they can do, and it changes stylistically what you're able to do, particularly moving from being able to run the ball more to being forced into airing it out and putting the ball up and passing.
Yeah, I think with those defensive rules, it's not only dictating what you can do, but more importantly, what you can't do. Like, there are so many little rules with the arena game where it's like the Jack's got to stay within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, and if your heel goes beyond that 5,
we saw that.
So,
we saw that happen in the playoffs last year. I mean, the Southwest Kansas Storm lost that game because on just a little bit of insight here, there was a lot of review after that game of where the heels were. There was a lot, like Zapruder level analysis that was done. Enhance and slow and frame by frame, and well, it's this angle, it's that angle, and there was a lot of discussions. I won't go more into it. There was a lot of discussions around that and a lot of analysis, and that's just the kind of thing you can get with the illegal defense calls that really
100%.
can swing a game in a moment. And it's unfortunate because you have some great plays that happen that then just get derailed by these things. So just kind of for our opening episode, we just kind of wanted to start, you know, set the frame for people there, and then get into the AF1 and IFL, just kind of the two leagues at the top right now. The NAL is the NAL has a plan. They're going to play very good football, but they don't have the aspirations, the short-term aspirations that the AF1 and IFL do. And that's okay. Like, it's very important that everybody's understanding what their lane is and working to get that done. And that's really good. But just looking at the AF1, you know, it's such a quarterback and what we're going to call the offensive specialist. That number one receiver on the roster is just super important. Players aren't playing Iron Man rules anymore, but this is the guy where it's like, this is the guy that makes our offense go. A lot of times this guy's primarily in high motion on the gotta have it downs. So we're just going to work through some of our top offensive batteries here heading into the 2026 season.
Yeah.
So Trey, I'll let you go first.
Well, if we're doing a snake, or we're doing a snake draft, or we're doing a Mount Rushmore,
just share. Like, we're each going to give 2 or 3. We're going to have some good conversation here. I imagine there's going to be some overlap. I'm curious if any of these don't overlap.
Yeah, I've at least the first 2 should absolutely overlap, and
100%. They should be the same across the board.
You can't start the conversation of offensive batteries, you know, that quarterback offensive specialist combo, without mentioning the name Sam Casanova and Dwayne Brown.
Yeah,
Dwayne Brown was just unbelievable on offense last year. You could make a case that he was the MVP of the AF1 last year. Of course, Sam ended up winning that, but just a deadly combo. And I think what makes Albany so scary is that you could easily say Sam Casanova and Isaiah Scott, and that's a good answer. Sam Casanova and Dwayne Brown. There's multiple good answers with the Firebirds, but yeah, I think the Firebirds are up there, and there's a reason why they went undefeated last season.
No, I mean, that's definitely it. It's just the preponderance of offensive weapons and the number of ways they can beat you. Dwayne Brown definitely is the the receiving option that drives that entire offense. I mean, he just, absolutely outpaced everybody last year during the regular season. 61 catches last year for 909 yards in 10 games. So he's averaging 90 yards a game on a 50-yard field. If he was averaging 90 yards a game on an NFL field, that would be spectacular. Add in that he had 30 touchdowns. Isaiah Scott and Darian Townsend, both very good receivers, great compliments, but Dwayne Brown is the guy. When you gotta have it, you're gonna go to Dwayne Brown, and if Dwayne Brown isn't open, it means if Dwayne Brown is covered, it means somebody's wide open out there, and that's usually what happened. So, I love Isaiah Scott. He's got great physicality, run after the catch ability, and he had a great arena crown. He was the guy that propelled that offense. And Darian Townsend just will pop off and just have these spectacular deep plays. Just he's that like blow the top off third option who's spectacular, and you love to see that. And I'm curious if he isn't more involved this year with Marquell Wade not being in the fold, but also Albany has a ton of talent and a ton of guys, and they even have some new guys in the fold. So it's just one of those things where what are you going to do? And you're kind of stuck no matter what. Like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because Sam Castronova is going to find somebody. I'll always think back to that semifinal game against Salina last year, where Sam is flushed from the pocket, running for his life, and he runs to the left side of the field, all the way across to the right side of the field, back to the middle of the field, and he's dropped back another 10, 15 yards. He's on the wrong half of midfield. And then he just drops this dime in the bucket 30 yards downfield. And up till that point, it had been a really tight game. And that play just absolutely broke the backs of Salina, and Salina just fell apart in the second half.
Right.
And that's Sam Castronova right there. Like, there's nothing else to be said. It's just, he is that good. He is him. So speaking of him, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, speaking on Sam and Dwayne, I was at the Albany-Nashville game last year in Nashville, and the angle where I was sitting, this was one of the most impressive throws I've ever seen in my life at any level of football. Sam rolling right, not jumping, but kind of leaning, avoiding the pressure, threaded the needle right to Dwayne Brown, and it was at that moment where I was like, this is an unreal connection. Like, both of these guys are superstar players, but it was that at that moment I was like, all right, this duo is something next level.
Yeah. And just also for reference, they did add Donovan Holly, who had who had 4 good games in Oregon as well last year. So they added a 4th receiver as well.
Then Tyrese Chambers too, coming over from Bay Area last year.
That's true.
They have an
somebody's going to get cut from that roster, and the receiver and quarterback that don't make that roster in Albany are going to be snapped up immediately by someone, and it's the question is who. That's a topic for another day.
100%. Yeah.
The number 2 duo, I think we're also going to be in alignment here. I think it has to be the one and only Colcomania and his new number 1 receiver, Malik Honeycutt.
Oh, yeah. Agreed.
So, Tyler Colca last year just had an absolutely spectacular season. Came in after the first couple games for Nashville and was just an absolute revelation for that offense. I mean, because we watched previously that Nashville had a good team everywhere except quarterback. I mean, I think they had 4 quarterbacks play in their first 3 games, I think it was. And they just go ahead.
They needed somebody to come in and be the straw that stirred the drink, because they had good ingredients, but they just didn't have somebody that made it all work. And Colca was able to come in and immediately do that and just kind of calm that offense down. And you saw that they were able to explode on multiple occasions and get all the way to the Arena Crown. And bringing over Malik Honeycutt from Salina last year, who was just a man on a mission, seemingly scoring 3 touchdowns a game, if not more. That's just a deadly combo that's coming over. And if there's anybody that knows how to use a wide receiver like that, it's Darren Arbette in that offense. So this Cats team is going to be very fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, Malik Honeycutt last year had 64 catches for 888 yards and 20 touchdowns. You know, it's just, and he's going to be even better this year. And the scary part is they do have even more because Jordan Gandy's back.
Yep.
They got Charles Hall, who was spectacular last year for Southwest Kansas, 51 catches for 817 and 15 touchdowns. You know, Malik Honeycutt and Charles Hall are going to give everybody fits. And Anthony Duffy's going to be in camp too. He's a reliable option. And, you know, it's just top to bottom. Like they have guys top to bottom in Nashville. The top two, it's very clear right now who we think the top two teams are just based on their past performance and how solid they are at quarterback. One thing that we learned last year was you have to have a quarterback because we saw that Salina Liberty team, have questions at quarterback with Kilgo initially. And then in comes Rakeem Cato.
Yeah.
And that team just really turns it around. And then Javin Kilgo comes back and he has found it again and looks like Javin Kilgo of old, which is great to see after Cato's injury. So, but Sam Castronova and Tyler Kulka are clearly 1A and 1B right now in the AF1 quarterback conversation. But I mean, I know I'm curious who your number 3 is right now because this is where it kind of opens up because we have some good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know if they're going to be great. They might be great, but they're good. They're good right now.
Yeah.
Or we have good, great receivers, but we don't know about the quarterback yet. And they are bigger question marks. So I'm curious who your next one is.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I have in my notes here, Castronova, Dwayne Brown, Kolka, Honeycutt, and then the word gap. Because there is just a large gap between those two and the
in
rest.
Our preseason expectations. I always want to be clear.
Course.
This could change by week 2 because guys get better, players
100%.
get better, schemes work well, offensive lines give guys time. This is by no means guaranteeing we know what's going to happen, but it's our best guess in the preseason because we want to talk ball.
Of course, yeah. I think this was a tough one for me. I have a couple different options here. You can make a case for any of these 3 options, but I think looking at Michigan and what they have with Malik Henry at quarterback and then Jarvey Flowers. I think Jarvey Flowers doesn't get his flowers.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I think I had is the guy in Michigan.
Yeah, I like what Flowers has done throughout his career, and I think he's been a savvy vet, played for multiple NAL teams over the past few years, and Malik Henry does play better in an arena football traditional rule set. And Sean Liotta, head coach there and play caller, is an offensive guru with all that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with Henry and Flowers. And I almost went with another wide receiver, but I thought Flowers brought a little bit more to the table.
See, I had Dan Williams as the guy because I watched Dan Williams do some bad things in 2020 in the XFL, and I've been a Dan Williams fan ever since. And I don't think he's been in the right opportunity since then. He went to the TAL last year, spent some time with Minnesota, played well. Just Minnesota never, Javonte Johnson's a solid quarterback, but he's not Malik Henry when it comes to throwing the ball. He now gets to play with Malik Henry, and he has guys like Jarvey Flowers and Kenny Brewer and Trevin Macon to take some of the pressure off him, and that's just huge. And I think, a lot of people are going to remember Malik Henry from Last Chance U, and I think one thing that I would challenge people on is just how good of a quarterback he is and how good a thrower he is. And we've seen it year after year in the arena style in particular, how he has just absolutely carved up a lot of defenses and just absolutely produced numbers. I mean, we saw it. He came in midway through the year last year in Billings and just completely catapulted that offense into a next level that I'm curious what would have happened if they had played an Albany team.
Right.
Because the Billings Albany games happened before the arrival of Malik Henry and Darius Prince. Also, this is a little bit like something I've heard from some people is Shunto Mizoguchi, the international signing for them. People have been very big on him. He very much impressed at the AF1 Combine. So I'm really curious what happens there. because I think any of these guys could emerge being the guy. I mean, we watched Drevin Macon give Nashville fits when he was in Corpus last year. I mean, he just created some chaos and almost just completely derailed the playoff race last year before they finally settled him down.
Yeah, the Michigan is an exciting team because you know what you're getting, but you also don't. And so it's that it's going to be exciting, but it's going to be coming down to finding their identity and protecting the football. I think is going to be a key for them, just because Malik Henry can be really, really good, and then there's some decisions you're like, what happened there? Like what did he see? I don't know what quite happened there. So
he saw something and had an idea. Somebody just didn't catch up is usually what it seems like.
Yeah, so it's something where it's like, man, Liotta with Henry could be very, very fun up for the Arsenal.
Yeah. Who's next on your list? I'm curious. I went 4 deep on this. I wasn't sure who your next one was.
Yeah, so you mentioned 2 different scenarios. You mentioned a quarterback and then a receiver room, trying to figure out who's going to emerge. This next one is a clear wide receiver 1, but we may not know who QB1 is. So I put QB1 for Kentucky, whether that be Dalton Oliver or Luke Bailey, and Darius Prince, just because Darius Prince has been such a dynamic playmaker for over a decade now in the arena football scene. And if you're gonna try out somebody who doesn't have as much experience in the arena game, Darius Prince is probably the best option to try it out there with him, just from his experience and how dominant he has been in the arena football game.
Yeah, and how good he looked last year, whether it was with Corpus or with Billings, and how he just elevated both of those offenses. Additionally, you can't forget about Shiloh Flanagan now as well, taking a lot of pressure off of him. Shiloh Flanagan just had a spectacular 2025 rookie year with the Southwest Kansas Storm. Big, long, very similar to Darius Prince in a lot of ways, just taller, because also didn't play college football, played college basketball, converted back to football here in the arena. And I agree, though. I do think it's going to be Dalton Oliver who wins that game, because we watched him, in 2024 in the AFL throw 7 touchdown passes against the Wichita Regulators. And I believe that was the game he had a dislocated shoulder. Mm-hmm. He's an absolute gamer. He's just always going to play hard. He played 3 games in 2024 where he really played the bulk of it. Played well, 13 total touchdowns in 24, passing through the air, and only 3 interceptions. So I think Dalton Oliver has a lot of the capabilities, and I think putting him in a strong offensive system with strong receivers like Darius Prince and Shiloh Flanagan is going to be a cheat code. John Luke Bailey might eventually be the Barrels quarterback of the future, possibly, but I think Dalton Oliver is going to be the guy, just because he has the arena experience. He spent all last year back in Colca up, and probably, there were a couple teams Dalton Oliver could have started for in AF1. So I think that's a really good move by Coach Cedric Walker to bring him in and have him be the guy that really launches that Kentucky team, because I do think it sets a high floor as well.
Yeah, and I think an underrated move for Kentucky this offseason as well has been bringing in big play Reggie Gray on the offensive assistant coaching staff, where he was a dynamic wide receiver in the 2010s AFL, and he spent the past couple of seasons in Bay Area helping that offense tick. So bringing over a pretty good level of pedigree to the Kentucky Barrels' first inaugural season, in addition to the experience that they already have on both sides of the ball. This Kentucky team's going to be very fun.
Yeah. That was kind of the end of my top tier guys that I think could be the most explosive. There are good players on all these teams. I just have a lot of questions after those 4 teams about what their quarterback situation looks like. Not that I don't think they can't be successful. I just think it's going to be tough for them. I don't know that they're going to come out of the gate firing with their current quarterback situations. They could surprise us. I mean, we'll learn more as camps start to open up. We'll hear reports and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We got a bunch of folks just outside of that 4 looking in, but like you said, time will tell, and we'll need to see some ball in order to.
We'll need to see some ball. Yeah. So heading over to the IFL, the Indoor Football League, you're a little less dependent on having a top tier, just an elite passing quarterback. Every quarterback needs to be able to throw the ball, but a guy who's a really strong runner can open things up as well. And you're a little less dependent on a receiver to really create, because running backs are a lot more valuable in the IFL because there aren't there aren't the illegal defense calls. So there's no limit to dropping guys back into zone. You can put 5 guys back into coverage. And that creates opportunities for rushing yards to gain. And, I call them sometimes empty calorie yards, but you're moving the ball and you're staying on schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have a lot more true running backs in the IFL than you do in the typical arena style, the traditional arena style in the AF1, where sometimes AF1 teams, they'll just use a big old guard that hasn't seen the field in a little bit as
the sniffer. Give me the sniffer. Let's go. It's got its own name. That's how you know it's a great position. When it's just we're not actually going to put a fullback back there. He's not a fullback. He's a sniffer. I know I was talking to a coach recently who was just like, they brought in my center from last year to be their sniffer, and that made me like really question whether I did the right thing having him as my center. So
so in the IFL, like the running back position is so crucial to success, in my opinion. And you look at the best teams from last year in the playoffs, all of them had very, very good running backs. And especially when you look at the championship teams, Vegas and Green Bay. Vegas had Antonio Wimbush, who's now up in the CFL. And then Green Bay had Kemo Clark, who's now over in Arizona. So it's no surprise that the teams that had dynamic rushing attacks and quarterbacks that could also run both made it to the championship game.
Yeah, I mean, and just kind of starting to work through this. I think, we did think of the batteries as the quarterback and the receiver. And we'll talk a little bit more about the running backs in a future episode because they are such an integral part of the IFL game. But just, kind of starting it off, I know we were talking a little bit through this. Max Mailer and Corey Reed in Arizona. Max Mailer been in Green Bay the past couple seasons, goes down to the desert, Arizona, playing for Coach Kevin Guy in one of those elite prestige franchises that we talked about. And, he's a guy who I know had a lot of offers this year. I know there was a lot of interest in bringing him in because he was a high character guy. Very good. I watched him play a little bit in person. Back in 2022 in the National Football League in USFB. And he was competing with a bunch of guys to play for Jerry Glanville. And Jerry Glanville spoke very highly of Max and his abilities.
Yeah.
And it's shown to be true.
You put the reigning IFL MVP in a Kevin Guy offense, and it's just going to be it's a bad situation for the rest of the league because who knows what Kevin Guy is drawing up for that type of talent that Max Mailer is.
Yeah, Max Mailer. Sorry,
you're
Mailer. Good. I keep mispronouncing it. And then surprisingly, Green Bay had this guy as well a couple years ago. At reigning, I believe was he MVP last year or just Arena Bowl champ? Jerome Johnson.
Jerome Johnson was IFL MVP in 2024.
Yep. 2024. That's right. He was the MVP in 2024. He is on another team. He left Vegas this year, and he's now with the expansion New Mexico Chupacabras. And if you want to have a quarterback be great, you need to go get him someone to throw the ball to. And they did that. They went and brought Maurice Ashley down from Oregon. And Maurice Ashley was spectacular last year in Oregon. Great receiving threat there, playing with Dalton Cole. The vibe that is Dalton Cole.
Yeah.
But just looking, he had 50 catches last year for 700 yards and 19 touchdowns. Just an absolutely prolific. Or no, that's Chris Lewis. Sorry. Wrong receiver. Maurice Ashley had a good season. Had 39 catches for 488 and 6 touchdowns. So wasn't the primary option, but he gets open, runs good routes, and that's going to be really good for Jerome. Jerome also shockingly was in that MLFB camp in Mobile, Alabama. A lot of great talent there. And Jerome always struck me as just someone who's a spectacular leader, very level-headed, and always going to makes plays in multiple ways. He's an elite runner and an elite passer, and it shows now as he's succeeding in the IFL.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see what this New Mexico offense looks like, because we like the rest of the teams in the league, they were at least around last year, and some of them a little longer than that. So what does their identity look like? We just don't know. So it's going to be an interesting first couple of months for the New Mexico Chupacabras to see what they're going to be and what their identity and strength is going to be as a team. But coming in with Jerome Johnson at quarterback, he has a very high ceiling in terms of what he can do both through the air and on the ground. And it's going to be interesting to see what the rest of the supporting cast there looks like as we approach the beginning of the season.
Yeah. Who are some of the other ones you got on your list? I've done a lot of talking here. I need to let you talk a little more.
No, please. Yeah, so I think there's a couple different directions you can take this. There are lots of great quarterback and receiver combinations out there. But to me, heading into the season, I'm very, very excited with what San Diego is putting together. Nate Davis has been one of the best indoor football quarterbacks of the past 15 years, going back to his time in the old AFL and then playing with the Amarillo Dusters for as long as he did. And Nate Davis is just prolific with passing the ball. Everyone I talk to from San Diego, he's like, he just gets the ball out so quick, and you can't get to him as a pass rusher, and it's so frustrating. But the combination I really, really love with Nate Davis is Nate Davis and Arthur Jackson III. So Arthur Jackson III had played with Nate in 2024. A dynamic combo, signed on late last year and absolutely blew up in the playoffs. And any play that needed to be made, Arthur Jackson was there. But then that's not to discredit the rest of the wide receiver room in San Diego as well. Dallas Daniels was a big play wide receiver for them. Ed Vander, I'm the biggest Ed Vander fan in the world. He lines up at running back. He lines up at wide receiver. So take your pick of what you want with Nate Davis in San Diego.
No, I mean, I think that's big. I mean, that quick release is something that's really even more important in the IFL and in the arena game, but IFL in particular with the increased coverages. If you're not giving the defense time to get set, your receiver knows the route they're running and the defense is guessing. So if your receiver can get to the spot and you can get the ball there quickly, you're going to create a bad time for defenses. And that's just really important to see and really good to see. And again, the strike force is going to be true to their name. I mean, Nate Davis out here throwing strikes left and right, and that's going to be real exciting for everybody to see.
Yeah. Another one I got here is over in Fishers, Indiana. So the Fishers Freight started their inaugural season last year. They had a lot of good skill position players, but the quarterback position was really holding them back. That was until they brought in Felix Harper. Felix Harper is a veteran of the indoor game, spent some time in Bay Area, spent some time in Massachusetts, then came over to Fishers, and this quarterback just really started to make things flow for this offense. And the moment that he stepped onto the field is when this Fishers Freight team turned things around and ended the season on a 5-game win streak. JT Stokes, wide receivers, coming back from last year, but then CJ Wyndham is a very, very dynamic wide receiver who won the IFL National Championship with Vegas last season. So you're bringing a championship wide receiver, 6'3", big-bodied guy, coming over with JT Stokes, who's a big-bodied receiver as well. It's like, who are you going to cover? Because it's going to be tough to cover both of these guys.
No, and that's just – it's so important to be able to create those mismatches and make people say, who are you going to cover? Who are you going to roll your coverages to? You can roll them a little more in the IFL, and so you can create those mismatches and those disadvantages. But at the same time, it's hard because teams have multiple receivers and you have to pay attention to the running backs as well, because you can get a running back a ball in so many ways out in space, in the passing game, and you can get them involved as well. And that just creates issues for teams. Another one that I think you can't really skip over is James James Cahoon down there in Jacksonville, Florida, for the Sharks, getting paired with Marquel Wade coming over from the Albany Firebirds. Marquel Wade was kind of the third, fourth banana. He ran behind Townsend often in the offense, but Marquel Wade, very capable, had some very big plays over the years, and a dynamic kick returner with the ball in space, which should really help him in the IFL game, where you're able to create a little bit more space and get those guys the ball in creative ways with the linebackers spreading out. And James Cahoon was last year with the Iowa Barnstormers, put up some absolutely prolific numbers, and now heading down to Jacksonville, where, if I recall, last year Jacksonville had a less than stellar passing offense at times.
Yeah, they were a predominantly running attack, and sometimes the passing game would be like, there it is, that's what we've been waiting for. Other times it was like, what is happening? Like, what is going on here? So,
and
he's
no remedy for that than a hotshot young gunslinger like James Cahoon and a guy like Marquel Wade, who's like, I'll get open. I will get open. Give me the ball. Give me the damn ball, and he's going to go nuts.
Yeah, there's a handful of good wide receiver weapons down in Jacksonville. Some that they signed on as free agents, some that are coming back from last year. But I think the key for Cahoon in Jacksonville is going to be how they implement the running game, because the past couple of years, Jacksonville's been very run heavy with the quarterback. Cahoon can run the ball, but that's not his bag. In Iowa, if they ran 60 plays on offense, 58 of them were passing plays, and they were slinging it across the yard, which is unheard of in the IFL. It's usually a pretty healthy split. So how are they going to introduce the running game with James Cahoon? He's got a little bit of gunslinger. He's got a little bit of Brett Favre in him in terms of he can make every throw. But that's the problem. He knows he can make every throw, and sometimes it gets him into some trouble. But Jimmy Robinson coming back healthy this upcoming season at running back. If you're going to pair him up with a stellar running back, an all IFL multi-year running back in Jimmy Robinson, you could do worse.
No, awesome. I mean, we've been through a lot here. We're coming up on 50 minutes. Trey, let's just take a look here in the chat. Some thoughts here. One right here. Welcome back to the Albany Firebirds, 5-headed monsters from this week in arena ball. Not a lie at all. Dan Williams is him. I think that's spectacular. I'm going to be rooting for Kentucky. Zeke Rose is my guy. Ezekiel Rose, and that's a whole other thing for the Barrels, is that defense that's going to be just absolutely dominant. Another question late. No Adam Cruz, Akil Greer. I don't know that Adam Cruz is going to be the starting quarterback in Washington. I really enjoy Adam Cruz, actually. He's a good player. He knows what he is, and he has a lot of confidence in his ability to make things happen. Just sometimes last year and the previous year, the offensive line just let him down a lot in Washington, and they really improved that. I think that's more likely to be Victor Espinosa up there, or Vincent Espinosa at quarterback up in Washington. I think that's going to be it. And I think the thing that's going to help Washington is Washington's one of those teams that has great receiver room, and I have bigger questions at quarterback than I did in Kentucky, because you have Akil Greer, you have Quintavious Workman. Akil and Quintavious are just absolutely excited, are thrilled to play together. And you also have JoJo Olabrise and Philip Harding as well, rounding out. So you have two of the tallest receivers on the outside that can both play the high motion, as well as shifty guys in Philip Harding, and JoJo Olabrise can get open in a phone booth. So love Washington and love what they're building on offense. I just hope Espinosa can elevate to that next level. Of course, we did have a Jerry Glanville mention. The GOAT, Jerry Glanville, gave me my favorite soundbite I ever got from a coach. I'll share that at another time. So that's it. That's good in the chat. We're figuring all this out, y'all. But Trey, any parting thoughts as we wrap this up?
No, this was fun to talk ball, and yeah, we're quickly approaching the beginning of arena and indoor football season, with some preseason games happening this month, which is a fun sentence to say out loud. and then all the season's kicking off in about 4 weeks. So yeah, they're looking forward to seeing how this thing continues to go and grow from here. And yeah, if you're watching this, if you're in the chat, let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you want to see in the future, what topics you want to see. And yeah, this is an ever-growing thing, and we're excited to get to work with it.
Yep, we'll be live. We'll figure out an exact time. We're going to try some stuff out over the next couple weeks live. We're also going to be dropping a podcast edition on all your podcast platforms, whether that's at Arena Football Weekly, or if there's a guest, they are more than welcome to put it on their show as well. So Trey may put this on his show as well. Y'all, it's been great. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.